Hello, Muller. How are you? Welcome back to the show.
Good evening, Ashok. Yes, I'm glad to be back, I must say. And how are you,
Nice.
Singapore?
I am fine. I'm in Singapore and I'm very excited about the month of October because the month of October we kicked off with collaborative leadership. And
And what
today,
excites
and
you
today,
about collaborative leadership, Ashok?
no, no, it's very interesting because even listening to last week's guest, right? It confirms a lot of things that we've heard before. Because as we move forward in this business world, right, we really need to understand each other's concerns, and it has to be a win-win situation on how we help each other grow ourselves and other people. And it's just lovely to hear from all the leaders about how they're thinking behind how they support business growth by also not only growing themselves but also growing with other leaders, also co-leaders, co-creating solutions together. And today we have a very exciting person to talk about leading for business partnering, right? Rayyan Irwan. Will you want to share with us about how you met him and what we need to know about him?
Okay, now I really cannot remember where I met Ryan, but all I know is every time, yeah, I'm trying to remember the first time. So if I remember correctly, I think we got in touch, and if I remember correctly, I did some work when he was with Lembaga Tabung Haji, but we've bumped into each other a couple of times. So that's more like what my memory allows me at this moment. Ryan will probably come up and remind me something else, but that's okay. But I'll tell you what impresses me about Ryan, right? So, a couple of times I think what is really nice about Ryan is that he is very focused, very precise. And if you look at his work experience, I think he's very passionate about people,
Mm,
right? Now, what does it mean to be passionate about people? It means to understand people, right? Which is why if you look at, just his work experience, right? He's been in operations, and then he moves into, he was with Domino's, right? So you can see his experience is not just started with operation, but then he spent a lot of time understanding talent, HRBP, scope, and learning and development. So
mm.
we had Ryan as one of our guest panelists for our leadership festival, and we
That is
do
right.
know that his inputs were awesome, and he's so. If you realize when he speaks, right, he has it all coming through because he's very soaked, I would say, in people and in growth. And I
Yep.
think, it's fair to say, so it's very interesting when, as we brought, Ryan into this topic, collaborative leadership, we realized that he also into a new role again, which is, head of HRBP. And
Hmm.
as we were chatting with him, we realized that he is addicted to learning and growth.
Nice.
Some people call it torture, others call it growth.
Mhm.
So let's bring Ryan on to see what actually, why and how he can contribute to our conversation today, which is collaborative leadership, leading for business partnering, which is
Nice.
really what all of us tend to do in our roles. So let's bring Ryan quickly so that he can tell us more. Hi, Ryan.
Hello, Malar. Hello, Ashok. Good
Hi,
evening.
hi. How are you, guy?
We
How are
meet
you?
again, this time
Yes, we shall.
virtually. I'm good. I'm good.
Yes, we have met physically too, and this is virtual. Nice. Yes, I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
Muller is trying to shift your position so that you take center stage, and she does not want to be in center stage. But while she does that, let me just say hello to all our guests who have logged in, right? Thank you all, everyone, for logging in to our show. It's called the Leadership in Flow Asia. We hold this every Thursdays. And what is this show about? This show is where we have leaders like Ryan coming on board, and we quiz all of them to find out what are the tactics, what are the tips, what is the thinking behind personal growth, leadership growth, and business growth. And today we have Ryan, right, who will be talking to us about leading for business partnering from a HR angle. And Devania, hello to you too. Thank you for
Hello.
logging in. And yes, for all our guests who have logged in, if you have questions for Ryan, please log it in later and we will ask him the questions on your behalf. So let me just start the ball rolling. Muller, is that okay? I need to ask permission from my boss. She says, okay, all right, let's go. All right. So, like what Muller was saying, you've spent a lot of time in the training development, the learning, the people side of things. We get that you're very passionate about it, but you've got on a new role in that sense. And I know you were saying this is free labor, but I know you're passionate about it, lah. But so, so just to set a context for everyone, right? How is the role of a HRBP different from a HR professional?
Yeah, yeah. Thanks for the the opening, the grand opening, Malar and also Ashok. Thank you for the question. To kick off and answer the first question, I think I would like to use the analogy just now when we had a chat previously about a restaurant. In my point of view, in a restaurant, there's always chefs and there's always waiters and servers who actually took your order and then give you an exceptional customer service and also experience in the restaurant. So to put it into context, from my point of view, center of expertise or center of excellence, the talent management side, the performance and rewards, the learning and development, succession planning and management. I would like to say they are actually the chefs in the HR atmosphere. And the human resources business partner is the one that needs to actually get all of the food that's ready by the chef, that's been cooked by the chef, and then actually sell it to the clients. And in this perspective is actually our businesses leaders like the sales department, the marketing department, the finance department, and also the investment and so on and so forth, right? So I think, like I said, it's a very, very interesting role for me. I come from an angle where I used to just cook. And now I have to cook and I have to sell what I have already cooked. You have to taste your medicine to a certain extent. Um, previously, you tend to not see the entire angle of perspective. You don't have multiple vantage point. You only have the way that it's so theoretical. We are actually so accustomed to theories, and we cook a lot of stuff. We put a lot of ingredients in and so on and so forth, and we tasted it ourselves and we feel that it's fantastic. But we don't really pretty much understand what actually the customer wants.
Sure.
So now in this angle, I have this both side of vantage point, and actually for me it's very, very interesting, and it is something that is very important for all HR leaders to at least go through in their journey before they go to the next level in human resources. I would say, Ashok.
Nice, nice. Thank you for that. Since you brought up that beautiful analogy of the restaurant and the food, uh, so what are you seeing? What are the expectations of the consumers, if I may use, if I'm no good, keep on with the same analogy in the sense,
Yeah.
right? The customers who come in. So, what are the expectations of the businesses of the HRBPs now? What are the expectations that you are seeing?
Yeah, thanks. I think that's a fantastic question, Ashok, because right now, a lot of time, the business side, the marketing, the finance, the
Hmm.
IT, they always look at HR as a department or a division that actually help them employ their staff.
Okay.
When the business wants to grow, almost immediately they said, my people have to grow. I have to have more engineers. I have to have more finance people. I have to have more marketeers. I have to have more sales people. It is always talking about when the business needs to grow, the human resources or the headcount needs to grow as well.
Yeah.
So what they actually need is someone that can justify them, hey, we have a certain amount of budget that is stipulated for us. The reason why we have to control this budget is because X or Y or Z. The
Right.
more people you have, the more personnel costs you will carry or inherit, and the more PBT you have to grow. The reason why you have to grow such amount of high level of PBT is because it's like a chicken and egg kind of thing. So in short, Ashok, I think we have to have the ability to articulate the business ideas in HR perspective. That is what is needed, and it's crucial that you, as a HR practitioner, you have to have this skill. And other than that, like I said just now, when we're having our chat, you also have to understand your business industry, and you have to
Mm.
understand the lingo. As an example, right now, I'm in financial institution, financial industry. You also have to have understanding a little bit on macroeconomics. What is
Okay.
the GDP of the nation? How does that equate to the OPR that is set by Bank Negara? So
Mm, mm.
what OPR actually effects in banking, in profitability of the banking. So with that amount of profitability in the banking, how many headcount is needed? How many headcount is optimal, right?
Mm.
So if you're talking to the sales manager or the sales director in a financial institution, they will always say, hey, I have to have thousands and thousands of sales representative so that I can
Okay.
deliver what the revenue needs.
Okay.
But then again, there's also an understanding that you have to understand the GDP of the nation and how that equates to the inflation of the nation and how that equates to then the OPR set of Bank Negara. So in other words, even if they do more sales and if you don't have more enough deposits in your bank, the profitability is not so good, right? So
Okay.
you just have to have this macro understanding a little bit so that you can have the same wavelength lah, I would say. You have the same
Right.
lingo, you have the same wavelength, and then they will have the trust. You know your stuff, not only the HR side, and you know your stuff also in the business side. And that actually
Okay.
it's a beautiful ingredient of a very successful HR business partner, I would say.
Okay. So what I'm hearing is this: from a business point of view, whenever they look at growth, they are
Mm-hmm.
purely looking at, I want my numbers. I want my head count numbers, right? And what you're
Yeah.
saying is you still need to moderate that expectation by understanding the macro factors of the specific
Yes.
industries, the specific
Yeah.
sectors that you're involved in,
Yes.
understand the constraints that they are operating within, right?
Yes.
To be
Yes.
whole. And so there's a lot of convincing and a lot of,
Of course. I
wow.
can share I can share another story, Ashu, if I
Yes,
may.
please.
When I was in Domino's Pizza Malaysia, right?
Or food again, huh? Okay.
Yeah, it's very interesting that it goes hand in hand about understanding the greater picture. Sometimes, yeah,
Sure.
you really have to take one or two steps backwards to
Okay.
see the greater picture at a larger or higher vantage point to have an understanding.
Okay.
Normally any industry CEO, the chairman or the bosses, at the beginning, this is the time of the year where they actually set the next year's target lah, right?
That's right.
October, November, right? And they will just give you some numbers. Hey, Ryan, in Domino's, we need 1 billion ringgit in sales for next year, for example. This is a
Mm.
true story.
Okay. Okay.
you know, we need 1 billion ringgit sales in the next years and so on and so forth. So please figure it out.
Mm.
So what we did was, hey, is it even possible? So take a step backwards. We
Mm.
go and collaborate with Naga National. We go and collaborate with Post Malaysia, just to have an understanding with the population, or not only the population of Malaysia at that point of time, but the household that is available at the point of time in Malaysia, Semenanjung Malaysia.
Okay.
So
Okay.
what we've concluded at the point of time, Ashu, is very amazing. We tell the
Okay.
board of directors at the point of time, I said, Dato' Tan Sri, even if everybody shifted from eating rice on a daily basis twice a day, you can't reach
You can't.
1 billion ringgit sales in a year. So then they'll say, oh, okay. So we give and we list down of our reasons, and of course at the senior management level, you don't only just give excuses, you also have to have a recommendation. So
Sure.
at that point of time, interestingly enough, what we did is we recommend that you actually have to go and acquire another country and operate that particular country. Then only you can have that amount of revenue that we are talking about lah. So
Mm.
yeah, so I think it goes across multiple industries. You really have to take one or two steps backwards, understand the perspective and also the macro side of the business.
No, no, thank you, because that's a beautiful example. Because in a lot of businesses, when they sit down to do their projections, right, is
Yeah,
always, they say let's aim for the moon, let's always aim for the moon, and so what you're doing is you're saying okay, let's aim for it, but let
yep,
us look at what are the steps we can take realistically, right?
yep,
Without
yep,
bursting any bubbles in that sense, and looking at
yeah,
all the factors, because what you
yeah,
did was you looked at the spending power of the people,
yeah,
of the demographics that would be buying pizzas, for example,
yeah.
right? And then looked at it and said, okay, does this make sense? Does it not make sense? At what time frame?
Yes,
Or
yeah,
what kind of population size?
yes,
It's
yeah.
very, very interesting because uh, which dovetail to a very important question, right? If you then say, okay, because what I'm hearing from you, Ryan, is this: okay, you're a HR person, but you also think business. You're also
Mhm.
thinking business, right? From a sales point of view, sales forecasting, P&L, and all of that. You're thinking that. So, what would be some of the key skills, right? HRBP would need 3 to 5 important key skills that they would need to be able to collaborate effectively. And I'm defining collaborate effectively because I'm
Yeah.
assuming if you go into business, initially they will push back because they have their targets, their KPIs, their dreams, what they want to achieve, And
Mhm,
here you
mhm,
are coming, right? And asking them questions. Sometimes they might not be comfortable. They may be comfortable.
mhm,
I don't know. So,
mhm.
in your experience, right, what would be some of the key skills HRBP would need to collaborate effectively?
Yeah, I think I can immediately think of the three top skills that requires a HRBP to be successful in my point of view.
Sure.
The first one is, of course, communication skill. You got to have the ability to communicate clearly. You got to have the ability to articulate your game plan, your idea. You got to have the ability to sell your vision and the reasoning behind your decision and your recommendation. Communication is key. The second one is the analytical part. You have to
Hmm.
have the ability to analyze data. You have to have the ability to collect, understand data, and then you have to have an ability to actually put data into knowledge. There's a lot of data. So sometimes you have to have the ability to analyze and collaborate and also cross analyze, see whether there is any story that the data is trying to tell. And then it goes
Okay.
back to communication again. You have to have the ability to communicate the data and the information they have just gathered. The third skill that I can think of on top of my mind right now is one have to have the ability to. I actually learned this from 7 Habits of Successful People. You
Okay.
got to ensure that you have enough emotional bank account with your clients. You got to have this because without it, right, it's already a door shut. So you just have to build it up. You really have to build it up. You cannot just, I understand it takes time, it takes effort.
Yes.
You have to just sometimes out of the blue, just text people, say, how are you? Hope you have a good day. It's very common and it's very basic. But sometimes the basic stuff is what people are lagging off, you know. So these are the three things that I think it's important: communication, analytical skills, and have a very balanced emotional bank account with everyone that you're collaborating with in the industry or in your institution.
Nice, nice. From what I hear is communication is important, but what you specifically said is articulate your reasoning. You know,
Yes.
articulate your reasoning. So you can communicate, but make sure that you have a very good reason and articulate it very clearly, behind
Yeah.
it, the rationale behind it. So that's one. From analyzing data, that's extremely important. But you also linked it and said, hey, make sure you put your data into knowledge. I guess
Yeah.
it's knowledge for the business, right? Relatability in
Yes.
that sense, right?
Yeah.
And the third
Yeah.
one you're saying is emotional bank, right? Emotional bank
Yeah.
account. Build that up.
Yeah.
And I agree with you. The effort is wonderful, but I guess in any business, it takes time.
Yes.
It takes time. I know before Muller jumps on, I just last follow up question with that emotional bank, you know, uh, because it's about time, right? So if someone new comes in, HRBP, somebody is new, right, taking this role, how is there any quick way to build that sincerity in them?
In my, I'm actually a new joiner in Bank Muamalat, right? So what I did was, when I joined in, what is the most important ingredient from my point of view? I'm not the only right way of doing this, but from my point of view is, you got to be genuine.
Yep.
You really got to be genuine, to be interested to know about the other person. When you communicate, let them speak. When you ask, really care about the answer. Try to remember and always relate back whenever you meet with the guy or the person that you bump into each other in the lift. It actually goes a long way, Ashok, in my honest opinion.
Mm.
And this all adds up, one penny after another penny, into the emotional bank account. And then eventually, when you have the role, they remember, oh, the botak guy. Oh, yeah, 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 I met him once in the in the lift. Oh, okay, okay, let's have a chat. I don't know what he's up to, but okay, let's have a chat. So once you get that kind of things going on positively with you,
Mm.
and the doors is already half open, you just have to go in and just present your idea, articulate your reasoning why, and do your best, and then continuously be genuinely interested to know about the third person.
Right. So what I'm hearing is, if you want a quick fix in a ironical way, is really be sincerely interested in people,
Yes.
genuinely care for people,
Yes.
right? That's a quick fix, which is a wonderful
Yes.
fix. I think that's the way life should be. Muller, I shall keep my mouth shut. And over to you, man.
Ah, thank you. That was a lot to digest. So I'm glad you kept Ryan engaged in the last half an hour. But before I ask Ryan the next question, which I'm digesting, I just want to say hello to Shamini Sudan, our co-host. She is in Hong Kong. So Sham, for some reason your comments are not showing up. She gave a
Oh.
couple of compliments to Ryan, and
Hi Sham, we met I think about a month ago, right?
August, yeah. So
August, yeah.
slightly, yeah, right. And she's affirming how communication is very important. Of course, she's a communication expert, right? And of course, she said, this one I have to read out. She said, "Look at Muller's smile when Ryan said emotional bank account," right? Yes, she knows where's my switch, right? So when you said emotional bank account, I think what got triggered for me is that we, I think, as long as we are working for people, emotional bank account is a non-negotiable item,
Yeah.
right? It is non-negotiable because when our relationships are in a positive space, if our emotional bank account is positive, then collaboration naturally happens,
Absolutely. Yes.
right? And
Yes.
yeah, I mean, it's a natural thing because today we are talking about collaborative leadership because we realize that there are some spaces where it should naturally exist, but it's not existing,
Yeah.
right? But my question to you is that I think you've given us really loads of brilliant ideas and thoughts and expertise around what makes a good HRBP today. On one hand, I think it's precise. On the other hand, it sounds complex to me as to, oh my goodness, I have to learn so much. I need to know my HRBP skills. On one hand, I'm already trying to cope with that. Now you're telling me I need to speak the business language, and I got to be so good at bridging the people's language into the business language, and the business language back into the HR language, right? But
Mm.
I want to circle back to not just emotional bank account, but I want to ask you, as HRBPs, how do we make withdrawals in our emotional bank account and mess up our HRBP rule? So, because you spoke about building trust, you spoke about communication, you spoke about being genuine. So these are the should be's, right? Right. But in your experience and listening to the business, how do we as HRBP or as people in the people business actually mess up our emotional account, bank account with our customers?
Yeah, brilliant question going to the emotional bank account side, Malar. Um, how do people actually mess up the hard-earned balance sheet that they have in the emotional bank account with clients? Is not continuing engagement. I think that is number one. It's not continuing engagement and only touches base as and when you need help, or only touches base as and when you want to cut their budget in regards to human capital headcount, or as and when you need them to help you with something. That is a self-sabotage. You always have to consistently be genuine, and you really have to ensure that this there is a pulse. You always have to have a pulse. So for me and my team, what we do is we always have a checklist on a weekly. I mean, right now we have WhatsApp, we have Telegram, we have a lot of things that we can use at our disposal. So we always have this checklist. Have we engaged with the division? Have we engaged with the department? Have we engaged with this unit? Constantly engaging with the number one in the division, and also engaging with the number three and number four in the division. I think it's equivalently important for you to ensure that you have that kind of engagement. So not to only sometimes, okay, the second point is that what I observe on self-sabotaging, for lack of a better terminology, is you only engage with the number one. That's, I think, is a big mistake. You always engage with the number one, the head of division, head of department, but you forgot that they are actually supported by the number three and the number four, right? So sometimes, and most of the times, if you're talking about the business plan is actually being developed by the number four, and then hopefully the number two and number three can actually polish it up so that the number one can do the presentation, right? So you really have to have a grasp of both position in the divisions and also department. I think that is the key point that I want to highlight to the audience in this evening, Malar.
That's now you've added more work to all the things expectation that you say about HRBP, right? I mean, again, brilliant, right? Because if we look at business results, we know that the levels of engagement, equals to the level of results that we get, generally speaking. And HR is the heart of getting this engagement done. And what you're saying, it's really interesting, right? Because now you're saying, you need to engage people's hearts. That's what you're supposed to do, and do it genuinely. And now, why do you engage people's heart? You need to understand the business from a macro point of view and a micro point of view, which means that you just don't engage with the decision maker because he or she is going to give you the big picture. You need to understand the big
Correct.
picture. Then you need to
Correct.
also talk to the operational people and the middle managers, because people have different challenges at different levels. And what you're trying
Yes.
to do is that you're collecting data, right? You're
Yeah.
collecting data, you're assimilating data, and you're trying to make sense out of it so that you empathize with every level of the business, right?
Yes.
And then you bring in your own expertise as an HR person and see how best can I now help you, solve your problems. So you're saying that on one hand. On the other hand, what you're also saying is that If you do this regularly, that means you keep depositing into the emotional bank account by saying, I'm listening to you, I understand, and genuinely doing it. Your bank account will be actually on a positive balance that when you need to make the withdrawals, i.e., when I need to cut down on the resources for you, I am
Mm-hmm.
doing it with full knowledge of the business because
Yeah.
I've really done everything I can to understand your business, and we are now going to rationalize this exercise, and the chance of pushback is minimized, right?
Yes. Yes.
They
Yeah.
now know that you know the business. You're just not coming in to actually cut costs, right? So I think again and again you are reiterating the point of how to understand the business holistically, how to build
Yeah.
relationship at a deeper level,
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
at a deeper level, and how to connect the dots, so that we have a better understanding, because that's where the heart of trust is, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, so
Yes.
that's like so many nuggets. But what's coming to me as you say this, right? It's Workplace has become a very complex place, especially with hybrid working post COVID, right? One common challenge that we have with hybrid working is that engagement, used to be natural at workplace to engage,
Mm-hmm.
needs conscious effort to engage, which means that collaborating and business partnering needs a lot more conscious effort for it to happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, so I'm sure you see that happening at your workplace, right? So
Yeah.
what are some challenges that you think HRBP is probably facing due to hybrid work, right?
Yeah.
Because of the way we work that has shifted.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I agree that there are definitely a lot of challenges in the hybrid nature, in the hybrid world right now, especially if you're talking about human resources in the industrial relation point of view, right? Like say, for example, if you're managing performance or if you're managing underperformance, you got to have a one-on-one communication. You got to have you got to set few criterias of you to go out of the performance issues that you have. It is best to do face to face for this kind of conversation. Try to avoid doing virtually for this kind of conversation. I would recommend. But yeah, sometimes I mean, in Bank Muamalat at the point of time right now, we are very fortunate because everybody is on deck. So as and when you need to have this conversation, you can just wait for the particular person to come in the office. But yeah, I do understand back when I was in Tabung Haji, when I was in Domino's, we are a regional industry, so sometimes the group human resources is somewhere in Hong Kong and they have to do some kind of communication with the people in Singapore. So you really have to ensure that you choose the right platform for the right audience and also for the right message that you're trying to convey. I wanted to go a little bit more deeper in hybrid, but sometimes we actually tend to overuse or wrongly use even WhatsApp, even emails,
Mm,
at our um, year right now, 2020th and onwards, right? There are obviously certain messages or certain information that actually better if you just pick up the phone and give a call and communicate that way. But sometimes leaders, we are guilty. We are all guilty of this. Sometimes our hands are too fast. We click, 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 and just press send. And then after
mm,
10 and 15 minutes, we say, oh, we should have just pick up the call and call and talk about this rather just, shooting a text. So we just have to be really in tune with the current moment, the current situation, and always have the concept. For me, I will always have the concept of stop. Stop, think, right? Then you proceed. Observe, stop, think, observe, then you proceed. I always have that analogy in whatever that you wanted to do, in every decision that you're trying to make. Always stop, think about it, observe what will happen, then only you proceed. Right now in the fast-paced world, everybody is WhatsApping here and there, Telegramming here and there, sending emails and whatnot. If I may, Mala, this I can relate it back to. This is actually the part where you actually lose your emotional bank account, lah, to a certain extent
Mm, mm.
when you do it
Yeah,
wrongly.
nice. Yeah, yeah. So what you are basically saying is that, yeah, we are, moving into, well, we have moved into the hybrid world, whether we like it or not,
Yeah,
but really to be more mindful, be aware, and be
mm,
present to really what you want to
mm,
do with your customers, what is needed in terms of communication, what works best for the moment. And that's why, your idea of stop is fantastic. Can you just stop, i.e., pause, think about it, what is really required so that you are, well, if you're not depositing, at least don't withdraw, lah. Right? Yeah. So, and when we do it mindlessly, then what is meant to be a deposit can end up being a withdrawal, especially with the use of tools. Because I think when you talk about WhatsApp, I realize that even I do this. As much as I love face-to-face interaction,
yeah,
we just are habitual creatures, right? Because you're
yeah,
so used to picking up the WhatsApp and saying, this is faster. It's just habit. You don't
yeah,
stop. You don't
yeah,
stop to think what is the best method of communication for us to engage and actually get the right form of feedback, right?
yeah,
And
yeah,
it's not which channel you use, but which channel is appropriate for your intended goal, and whatever channel that we use, how to be most present, because that's what is going to
yes,
give us engagement,
exactly. Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah. I
So
completely
mindful.
agree. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, thank you, Ryan. Now, before I know Ashok is like, I want to go. Hold on, Ashok. I think we need to be very, very nice to the people who have come on our show and said hello. Hi, Kushbu. So good to see you. She says, hey, so nice to see so many familiar faces. I'm
hi,
assuming she knows
Kushbu.
all of us. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, I know
so
her.
so, Ryan, she's talking about you. Yes, Kushbu, lovely to see you here. And Divanya, I hope I got your name right, says, agreeable on the face to face meetings as you get to pick up on the non verbal cues
Yes,
during
yes,
communication, right? Yeah. So, yes, face to face is fantastic because not only we pick up non verbal cues, but we also pick up on the energy, which we may not
yes,
when we are online, right? We might be able to pick up some non-verbals, only what is
yeah,
visible, right? But I think face-to-face, especially when it comes to important conversation, sometimes more than just the non-verbals, the energy will actually give in a lot for you to what to do.
absolutely,
Yes.
absolutely.
Thank you, Divanya. Ashok, you now get to ask the question.
Thank you. I was just enjoying, or just watching, and learning from both of you. So, okay, Ryan, I like the fact that you said that we wrongly use tools, and you give an example, of how
Yeah,
we are quick on the finger, but but not on the phone, and
yeah,
to have a conversation and all. I, I
yeah,
I get that, and I think it's important to have that human touch, the connection, and all. And what I'm hearing is this: since 2020, we have had this conversations going around about work from home, remote work, hybrid
mm,
work,
mm,
and it's been ding donging for a few years now, right?
mm, mm.
And I think I don't know whether we're coming to a landing or we're going to start evolving again because I guess from 2020 to 2022, because of all the whole vaccination protocol, we were already
Yeah,
at home and we were working,
mm,
right?
mm,
So from the staff point of view, they're saying, "Hey, you know what? We are getting results." Of course, I'm talking about mainly the white collar group of
mm,
people, right?
mm.
Because people who are working in the factories in Domino's and whatever, that's a different conversation. They
Yeah,
might feel jealous. They might say, "No, I think it's about time I became white collar." That's different, all right? Uh, but by and large, what is happening is a lot of people saying, "You know what? Places like in Jakarta, Philippines, Malaysia, perhaps also to Singapore to some extent, commute could be a problem, about effectiveness of time in that sense. And they've got to a certain rhythm where they're looking after their families and still delivering on the work and all. But this year, a lot of businesses have been focusing on the P&L and saying, hey, let's come back, let's come back. So I think that conversation is still moving, right? I think we might get into a landing space next year, because now the new other conversation is, should we even have 4.5-day week? I'm not sure how that will transmit. All right. So you're in the HR space where you've got people on the ground saying, hey, we can do hybrid, right? And things
Yeah.
have changed,
Yeah.
and then from the business point of view, the business heads, they've got the P&Ls, they've got the results, they're answerable, right?
Yeah.
And they may have a different point of view. So
Yeah.
what do you, from your personal observation, right, since you
Yeah.
do stop, think, observe, proceed, right?
Yeah.
I'm listening. Right? From your
I think,
observation,
yeah, I
what do you
think I
think
should.
is a challenge? Yeah.
Yeah, I think from my observation, I think it differs from industry to industry,
Fair enough.
definitely.
Yep.
And how it differs is actually, at the end of the day, is the bottom line, the profitability of the industry and also that particular institution. By saying that, I mean by capitalizing available financial resources, there are certain industries or certain institutions or certain businesses that can actually even make more money by having most of their employees, if not all, working virtually. Obviously, they
Right.
don't even have to have a place to rent, they don't even have to pay the utilities and so on and so forth, and the
Sure.
productivity is intact. But there are also institutions where it's huge and it's big, where financial issues regarding building mortgage or utilities is not a question. So again, it differs. Let's say, for example, if in banking industry, Bank Muamalat specifically, or some other banks that have branches operations, I think they are more skewed to have physical office workspace. Back to before pre-COVID. Back to
Right.
before COVID. So that is the angle. But for institutions such as Domino's, especially in the corporate office, they tend to see that as an opportunity. The journey towards 2020 all the way up to 2022, the lockdown and the COVID and stuff, actually give them an aha and a wow effect. Say, hey, I don't really need to have this. I don't really need to have this. I don't really need to have this. So right now, they are, I mean, both side of the industry, both side of the institution, they are going to a landing and decision whether what is best for them, for their business model per se. So again, if you are in Domino's, it's so fortunate that you always have this ability right now, because at the end of the day, as long as the branch operations is running, then the office people, the marketers of the world, the finance people of the world, even the call center. When I was still in Domino's, we actually have a call center agent that actually can answer calls from home, as long as you have internet connectivity and you just have to pick up the call. Thank you for calling Domino's.
Exactly.
What can I have your order? So that's it. So yeah, I think it differs. It differs, and there's not one size fits all. And I don't say that. Me particularly, I like to have a balance. There are days where I have to work from home, which is much more convenient, because I'd like to start very early in the morning and I can just finish off everything by before lunch, and immediately go on meetings and calls afterwards. But like I said, there are certain things that requires a physical interaction. Like say, for example, if you're meeting up with the head of department or division that say that the certain training allocation or training budget for you at this point of time needs to be rethink, and we need to plan prudently and not to give you the entire lock, stock and barrel. So how do we then engage with this kind of conversation? It requires a face to face. So I would say that in order for you to be effective leader, you have to have the understanding of how your team function and how your team produces results, and manage thereon. Manage thereon. Don't just say, hey, you got to be in office, you got to be here and there. Manage and decide by expectations and results that you want, and that's the best way.
Okay. Okay. So what I'm hearing is that's the most important thing, right? Manage by expectations of results,
Correct. Don't
right?
just, yeah, it's not a one size fits all, Ashok. It's
Yep.
never, if you have one way or the highway, it's so archaic. Now it's 2023.
Yep.
As long as you can deliver results, how you attain it, how you achieve it, whether you're virtual or at physical, then uh, the others is second.
Right, right. So what I'm hearing is in this hybrid world, there's no one size fit all. Do not just go very binary in the way you're thinking,
Correct.
right?
Correct.
Look at the situation in totality, right?
Correct.
So look at it by managing the expectations of the results. So what I'm
Mhm.
hearing, right, underlining all of this is interaction. That means is again going back to what you talk about communicating, right?
Yeah.
Looking at the
Yeah.
data, right? And
Yeah.
engaging at an emotional level and
Yeah.
explaining the stories very clearly and helping
Yes.
make those decisions, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Would you also say that one of the most important things in this hybrid world, if we are going it in this way, is about very deliberate interaction to create engagement? Would that be a
Correct.
fair statement?
Yes, it's a very fair statement. You got to be intentional about it.
Oh, Ryan has gone. I think the Wi-Fi. Uh, okay, so Malar, can you hear me? I think while we wait
Yes,
for
yes,
Ryan.
I think yes.
Yeah. Ryan, if you can hear us, your Wi-Fi has gone a little bonkers. I think we will wait for you to come back. So I think what Ryan has been sharing so far has been very interesting, Malar, because he's talking about very clear steps and strategies of being able to collaborate with businesses. I like the fact that he's got very clear thinking around it. He says that yes, businesses need to grow, right? And it's not just about engaging the number of people, right? The number of people that you bring in is not just about the head count numbers, but it's also looking at the macroeconomics or the sector you're in and
Mhm.
understanding what are the different factors that could affect your business also, right? So I like that the clarity of the thinking because he's not just looking at it one way, right? And I like the fact that he even talked about being able to communicate very clearly, right? Yes, Ryan, I'm talking behind your back.
Yeah. Sorry. You see, talking about technology and hybrid, right? That's what happened. right
Exactly.
smack,
Yeah.
right smack in
Yeah.
reality. So I was about to say just now. I think we need to understand everybody is an employee, everybody is working, kan. So people don't wake up suddenly wake up in the morning and thinking, hey, today I don't want to be engaged. I want
Mhm.
to be demotivated. I want to do wrong stuff. I want to do what the SOP say cannot do, I want to do. People don't wake
Exactly.
up like that, right? So you just have to ensure that when you're dealing with people, especially at multi-level, multi-generations right now, you
Mhm.
don't really have to motivate people so much. You just have to stop demotivating people from another perspective.
I love that.
Nice one, nice one, nice
Yeah,
one. And which is why you need to stop, like what you say, because when you stop, instead of working so hard and figuring out how to actually, engage people, but if you just stop disengaging people first and foremost, it would work. So if
correct.
you can't make a deposit, don't withdraw.
Withdraw, yes.
Don't withdraw. Okay, thank you, Ryan. That was so simple but yet so profound, right? Shamini, who is supposed to be in Hong Kong, cannot tahan. She's insisting that I ask you this question, which is put on LinkedIn, which we are not able to put up. So you realize that if she was here, she wouldn't have given Ashok the chance to co-host. So anyway, here's the question for you: when do you make a mindful withdrawal? When is it
Oh,
worthwhile to do that? Okay,
okay,
because
okay.
you are talking about mindfulness,
Yeah.
mindfully demotivate. So now she's asking, okay, now there will be, I'm sure, when we talk about setting boundaries, right? So
Yeah.
when do we make a mindful withdrawal? Yes, to you.
Okay. From a HR perspective, zooming in into HRBP perspective, every year, I think this will go will ring a bell. You have to do performance calibration. Every year we will have to do and we will have to face this whether we like it or not. You know, the bosses or the division heads have already rated all of their team members in their division. You know, everybody have their scores and so on and so forth. But it's always the HR responsibility to ensure that, you know, the organization is performing in an angle that is expected by the management. So there are sometimes people who rates um, not proper lah, for lack of a better word. You know, so you do have to have the stance. You know, you do have to have at that particular moment the ability to articulate and explain why we need to do this, why we need to be fair, how can you be a better leader if you decide this. You know, you always have to have that kind of conversation. But Shamni, you to answer to the question, there's always a way to do it very balanced in a way. The Malay people like to say, you tarik benang, beras tak berterabur or tepung tak berterabur. So that is the terminology that I'm trying to share with the audiences today and this evening. That is the time that you have to make that kind of intended withdrawal. Some certain other examples that I can share is when you have to decide. Obviously, you know, when leaders, when their staff wanted to resign, you know, I'm just going very practical here so that people can immediately align on it. Most of the time people want to counter offers, you know, but the HR practitioners with the database, with the understanding that we have, counter offers may not 100% of the time be the right solution. You know, the data shows that every counter offers you make, 6 months or a year down the road, eventually the people will decide to leave again, right? And then you cannot be keeping on countering offers that particular person lah. To a certain extent, the person will be CEO nanti. You know, so you just have to have the ability to nip it in the bud. You just have to have the ability to say, hey, no, this is not a good choice. It's not a good choice for you, and it's not a good choice for the business. But at the end of the day, at the end of it, I would say that, you know, it's not about taking that withdrawal too much, but how you withdraw. You know, it's how you withdraw. So ensure that you have already the emotional bank account that when and how you need to withdraw it, the third party have the confidence that they can trust you, that you know what you're talking about, that you are looking at things in their best interest.
Nice,
That's how you achieve what you need to achieve.
nice, nice. I think you have articulated the importance of withdrawing without damaging the other person, right? I think you're demonstrating empathy with kindness.
Yeah.
You are demonstrating being assertive, right?
Yeah.
Stating what is right, but respectfully and kindly. So I think those things are coming through, and you would be able. So your withdrawal will not affect the relationship or impact the other person negatively. First and foremost, if your bank account is in a healthy space, so that you don't go
Correct.
into an overdraft, basically, right? So
Correct.
yeah. So and I think that what you're saying is that build the rapport, make sure your relationship is in a healthy space so that
Mm.
when you withdraw and do it
Mm.
consciously, so that the how to, that means even that you're doing consciously, it's
Mm.
it's what he said, what tarik benang, nasi, bukan nasi apa,
Tepung tak
nasi,
berterabur.
tepung tak berterabur. That means you pull the thread without making sure that the flour doesn't spread, right?
Yeah.
So you're
Yeah.
doing it so intricately that um, it does not impact them. So they don't even realize that it has hurt them without hurts. So how do you withdraw without hurting somebody? And I think that's just fine skills, great empathy, and care that is actually required, and definitely loads of presence and respect for the individual. Now that's a
Yeah.
lot to ask in a HRBP lah, Ryan. Like
That's why I
I'm
was
not
saying.
gonna apply. I'm not gonna apply for the job that you're offering, by the way. Which is why I think the role is ever more important, isn't it? Because
Yes.
Yeah, and so important, and the kind of skills that we are looking at, they are fine skills within the soft skills, right? So,
Yeah.
Ryan, thank you very, very much, for such, deep, practical, people centric insight. I would love to close it, but Ashok will kill me because he's dying with the last question. So I'm going to let Ashok ask you the last question, have the privilege because of the similarities that you all share, the intelligence level, right? And
Yeah.
yeah, Ashok, go ahead, ask the question and
Uh,
close with 5 minutes.
thanks, Mala. So, Ryan, you notice how Mala has pulled the thread away from me slowly without hurting me by saying you only got 5 minutes. Last question. Okay, do it. Huh?
Yeah.
Okay, so yes, thank you for sharing. Thank you for saying yes for the show, and thank you for sharing all your ideas. Now, in a post 2020 world, I call it post 2020
Mm,
world.
mm,
Obviously, HRBP is also evolving,
mm,
right? So my question, as we part today, is how should HRBP reimagine their future roles
mm,
to be
mm,
relevant?
mm. I think I would like to share a tip with the audiences. I completely understand what Malar mentioned. It's a lot to chew
Mm,
in this job role. But what I did when I got on board to Lembaga Tabung Haji, and right now I'm in Bank Muamalat, I spent a good amount of time. For example, for me, I was just telling you guys that I run every morning. So
mhm,
I spend a good amount of time when I'm on the treadmill or whether I'm doing my job, just listening to the industry audiobook or YouTube or stuff like that. I listen to CNBC, I listen to CNN. If you are in the financial institution, if you are in the automotive, you listen to a lot of car YouTubes, you listen to a lot of auto vehicle, you listen to what the industry is listening, and it's amazing that we are actually given by God the brain that we can actually remember a lot of stuff when we listen and when we see and we try to understand
mm,
what they're trying to do. And that actually gives you a lot of benefits in regards to time management as well. You can actually immediately almost understand what is needed. So when Ashok, to answer to your question, moving forward 2023, 2024, 2025, be disciplined in having enough time invested in your personal development. Be
mm,
disciplined, be intentional of developing yourself. It doesn't require a lot of investment sometimes. You don't really have to go to the top university of the world. You just have to have a good amount of discipline and stay on it and listen to the audiobooks. There's a lot nowadays, right? There's a lot of platform. For me personally, audiobooks works well. YouTube in the morning works well. I go and listen to what the economy of the world is doing. I go and listen to what the financial institution is heading to. And for me, I'm a fitness freak, so I listen to a lot of Iron Man, how to swim better, how to cycle better, and all this sort of stuff lah. But again, what I would like to close is be disciplined in developing yourself.
nice, nice. So what I'm hearing is this: moving into the future, the way you want to be relevant, right? Number one is be mindful of the trends that are moving ahead.
Yeah,
Focus on your personal development in
yeah.
view of the trends also by developing yourself. Be disciplined and be very intentional in your personal development. That's what I'm hearing, right? To be relevant for
Correct.
the
Sure.
future. Right. Nice.
Yeah.
Thank you. And just thank you again very much. And my very last question. I know you're preparing for your Iron Man, and all of that. Do you have any favorite books that you read? You have read, sorry,
Oh
or you're
wow.
reading?
Yeah. Of course.
Top that comes to your head.
Immediately is the Rich Dad Poor Dad. Actually, for me,
Okay, okay, okay.
by Robert
Kiyosaki.
Kiyosaki. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, cool, cool. Thank you very much. And with that, let me see. Do we have anybody from our audience saying anything nice? They all have very beautiful things to say about you. But yes, we all will remember the stop, think, observe, proceed. Right,
Yeah.
the 4 steps. Thank you very
And stop
much.
demotivating people.
And yes, I remember that. Stop demotivating people. And that's something
Yeah.
to be done intentionally, Stop,
Yeah.
let's sit down and really observe. Are we really demotivating people?
Yeah.
Mala, that could
I
be a
always
question for our leaders,
I actually have these tips that I get from Marshall Goldsmith when I met him a few years back.
Okay.
He's a good mentor. He's a very good guru. He said, Ryan, whatever that you want to do, have a sticky note, write it down first, stick it somewhere, and if after 5 minutes you still want to do what you've written in the sticky note, you do it. But most of the time, oftentimes, 70 or 80% of the time, you don't really want to do the things that you wrote down on the sticky notes.
Right.
So be intentional with this kind of things. I
Okay.
always practice that until today.
Nice, nice. Thank you very, very much. And with that, Malal, do you have anything else? Because thank you again, Ryan. This has been a
Most welcome.
wonderful
You're
hour.
most
We have
welcome.
learned a lot. Again, you have added value to Leadership in Flow Asia. We talked about collaborative leadership, and you've given a lot of ideas from food right up to tips.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you for having
No,
me.
thank you. Right.
And
Okay.
we didn't even get to talk about him finishing his PhD, but never mind. I
Exactly.
think we'll
We'll
need to
call
have
him. We'll have to call
another
him back.
conversation. Yeah, yeah, yeah. We'll need another 2 hours for that. So, Ryan, thank you very much for sparing time
Most
and
welcome.
so generous with your very, practical tips, yet, surrounds around people. Thank you,
Thank
Ryan.
Thank you very
Okay.
much, sir.
As we say goodbye to Ryan, I'm going to say bye to him now. Okay, Ashok, it's a very happy day because you really enjoyed your conversation with Ryan. I could see that,
Thank you.
and I think we really learned a lot, right?
Yes, we did.
So on point with our topic of collaborative leadership, where he actually gave us loads of practical tips on business partnering. I
Yep,
think the tips he gave works for everyone who
that's right.
is in a business relationship, which is anyone, because we are all here to serve the business in our
Mhm.
roles and to stay relevant. I think people skills are crucial, and he's given us a lot of tips. Might be from HR perspective, but I think it's pretty universal. So
That is correct.
yeah, I learned a lot. So yeah, that's that. So lovely to have had Ryan. I'm going to sign off here from KL Central as I say goodbye. Divania, thank you for joining us and staying tuned. And for all those quiet viewers on LinkedIn, thank you very much. And Sham, I'm sure you're on the flight. Have a safe flight. So, with that, this is
Right.
Malar signing off from Kuala Lumpur.
And Ashok from Singapore. Thank you and see you next week.
Right.